Just last week, Facebook banned a number of far-right individuals and organizations for the messages that they were using the platforms to spread. And joining us now to break this down and see where we might go on social media from here, Deputy Director of Extremism at Media Matters, Christina Lopez. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate your perspective on this. So when Facebook made this move last week, banning both individuals and organizations, InfoWars obviously pretty notably, were you surprised that Facebook took such strong and decisive action against a number of people?
Well, not really surprised. It was an action that came, if only, too late, because this is something that a lot of activists, that a lot of people who are on the other side of being targeted by the kind of rhetoric that these individuals constantly employ on these platforms had been raising the alarm for a while. And from our perspective, from the Media Matters perspective, we had been following what types of content this individuals posted on these platforms, because it did put Facebook and its platforms, Facebook and Instagram, on a really weird position consistency-wise, because on the one hand, they would tout these community guidelines, these terms of service, and claim that they would enforce them very strongly. And then on the other hand, you had an individual like Alex Jones and InfoWars, who had already been banned from the platform for multiple reasons, for hateful rhetoric, for actually calling for violence against Special Counsel Mueller at the time. And so this had been not only egg on Facebook's face in the sense that Alex Jones had already been banned, and organizations like Media Matters had pointed out consistently how Alex Jones and other InfoWars pages had just simply circumvented any ban by starting a different account or going on Instagram to use the platform to attract users to their own platforms, to send traffic to other sites, while seemingly, presenting kind of a lifestyle sort of content on Instagram. And so using Instagram as a very useful tool to whitewash their appearance online, whitewash their personal brands, while at the same time with this sanitized image, send audiences to their other sites online and increase their traffic. So we pointed out the ways in which they were doing these things and circumventing bans and going around, what Facebook makes as their very explicit community guidelines and terms of service in terms of what can be content. And it showed that they were basically using, loopholes or just violating guidelines in content, specifically Laura Loomer with her anti-Muslim, recurringly anti-Muslim rhetoric that was very hateful.
So I want to talk about some of the counter arguments to the move that Facebook made. There are some people who try to make it like a First Amendment thing, but then there are others who oppose these people, the message that they're sending, but they think that this might be either not effective in silencing the message or even counterproductive, that taking them off the platform feeds into their victimhood narrative and that they'll inevitably find other places to spread the message, so it won't actually sort of harm their ability to raise money and organize and all of that. In Media Matters' experience, when they've seen individuals that have been taken off of these platforms, does that appear to be the case, or do these sorts of bans, are they actually effective in harming their ability to spread these hateful messages?
Well, John, they're absolutely effective in the sense that Alex Jones, his audience largely started decreasing after he was banned from different platforms. It's not so much about free speech here. The issue at hand here is more, are you entitled to profit from your hateful speech? And are community guidelines that these platforms claim to follow, and terms of service that these platforms claim are the rules of the game, are they being consistently enforced, or is there a double standard? And we've found actually that there is a double standard, because while these figures are able to amass a large amount of following and increase their audiences and their viewership by impressive numbers, they would have not done this if it wasn't because of the help of algorithms that help content that is provocative, that is often hateful, become the most engaged with content and therefore get a boost from algorithms. So that largely helps. It's not so much that whether you're allowed, to have a soapbox and spread your message, is whether you're entitled to a megaphone to reach even more people and actually profit from this message. What we've seen though is that often the terms of service are used against people of color. They're used to silence the victims of this sort of hateful racism. We've seen Facebook ban activists of color just because they were talking about double standards, or they were talking about white people in ways that made Facebook act as if white populations were a protected group. And so this false equivalences that Facebook is making in its platforms, in which groups that are just thinly veiled white supremacy, like White Lives Matter or like all white pride, are treated as if they were perfectly equivalent to activist groups like Black Lives Matter. And so that is a problem, because you are enforcing a set of rules affecting the people who are already victims of this sort of hateful rhetoric and different systems of oppression. And you are enforcing them to actually protect the people who espouse this sort of hateful rhetoric. So, and these double standards are where Media Matters has kind of dived into with our research and our monitoring of social media sites in ways where we show how the enforcement is inconsistent. It favors the extremists, and it allows them to profit from this sort of hateful speech.
Yeah.
It isn't so much whether you're allowed to say X or Y or Z. It's that platforms empower extremists to make of these sort of rhetoric a brand, a profit, an income source. And it's also like the impact that this has on their followers. You can think about these personalities to use a name for these ages as influencers in hate, influencers in hateful rhetoric, and therefore like the influence that they have on young followers and the influence that they have in normalizing this sort of hateful rhetoric is very important. And we've seen that, everything that's said on the internet, you can't really be sure that isn't falling into the ears or into the mindset of someone that is already violent, that is already prone to violence, and that, has become increasingly radicalized by the sort of exposure that they've had online. Like we've seen this, how the internet culture has played a huge role in the past in recent hate crimes that have affected a long number, like big numbers of people from protected groups.
I certainly agree, and for that reason, we appreciate the work that Media Matters does. Cristina Lopez, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.